Hello guys, welcome back to our anime explainer. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Swallowed Star 2 origin continent based on novel. So let's start. Luo Feng's power of the world enveloped a total of 12 primal chaos prefectures. When the Emperor of Tien Kuan's body intended to enter this range, Luo Feng naturally detected it, and instinctively repelled and squeezed the other. The dense power of the world compressed against the Emperor of Tien Kuan, forcing him to reveal his form. An incredibly vast body appeared between heaven and earth. It had a pair of wings, each of unimaginable size, and a mouth as big as 1/3 of its body size. Blood-red eyes filled with murderous intent, a thick scale-armored tail stretched across heaven and earth. When its wings were spread, they were 300 trillion kilometers in length. The thickness of its body alone was 50 to 60 trillion kilometers. This was already its smallest possible size, for if it grew any bigger, even the heavens and earth would seem too small. Primordial bloodline, Luo Feng observed this scene. The potential of the primordial bloodline was extremely high, even capable of escaping from the braided cage world. As a second realm godly king, the Emperor of Tien Kuan had deeply tapped into the potential of the primordial bloodline. This immense bodily prowess, although not comparable to the emperors and monarchs, already had a similar essence. Sigh. The giant face enveloping 12 primal chaos prefectures vanished, and a figure in silver stood in front of that colossal creature. Luo He, some actions come with a price, the colossal creature spoke, its voice causing the vast boundless heaven and earth to tremble. Let's see what you can do, whether it's me who pays the price, or you, Luo Feng calmly observed him. He admitted that the true body of the Emperor of Tien Kuan was more domineering and strong than his world life form. While they conversed, several ancient beings from afar were already watching the battle. Powerful beings, from within their cave mansions, could watch from afar. The weaker ones moved closer to the borders of Sha Kingdom and New Country. A confrontation between two overlords, the godly king from Bolu also arrived at Yu Country to get a clearer view of the battle. Luo He is still too confident. After all, he has only reached the threshold of the Overlord level. The Emperor of Tien Kuan, on the other hand, has deep accumulations. This battle, Luo He might suffer a significant defeat. Luo Feng, the mountain-sitting guest, had also arrived from Thunder Ancient Country to the border of Sha Kingdom and New Country, watching from a distance. His power was somewhat weaker. In Thunder Ancient Country, he did not perceive Luo Feng's power of the world covering 12 primal chaos prefectures, but he kept up with the news about Luo Feng, so he was also aware of Luo Feng's fallout with Sha Kingdom. Becoming a godly king and acting hastily, why so rushed, the mountain-sitting guest thought. After all, the Emperor of Tien Kuan is at the second realm of a godly king. Luo Feng, if you broke through to the second realm, there would be no hurry to act. The mountain-sitting guest was very patient. He had waited such a long time, even thousands of years more wouldn't matter to him. Luo Feng might suffer a bit, but there's no danger to his life, the mountain-sitting guest reassured himself, intently watching the battle. The two ancient countries and many ancient existences were all focused on this battle. After all, there were only so many overlords in the whole land of origin, and a fight between two overlords was indeed rare. Ha ha ha, you really are confident. The huge body of the Emperor of Tien Kuan spoke, then it opened its gigantic mouth. This mouth made up 1/3 of its body size, inside were dense, crisscrossing sharp teeth, followed by a terrifying roar. Roar! Black winds flew out of that gigantic mouth, instantly sweeping through heaven and earth. Hidden within those black winds were traces of grey currents, which even slightly startled Luo Feng. Is this the annihilation wind of the Emperor of Tien Kuan? Luo Feng had already collected detailed intelligence on the Emperor of Tien Kuan, and knew that once this annihilation wind was unleashed, it would destroy heavens and obliterate the earth, posing a great threat even to beings in the second realm of Godly King. I shall see. Luo Feng's figure instantly enlarged, his feet planted on the ground, his head nearly touching the starry sky. Dressed in silver, Luo Feng stood still, the silver robe over his body naturally spread out, transforming into a silver canopy, actively intercepting the terrifying black wind. The annihilation wind, derived by the Emperor of Tian Kuan from his mastery of the origin Tao of matter channeled through his primordial bloodline, had a corrosive and destructive nature. The moment it touched the silver canopy, though the canopy was resilient and filled with endless vitality, it still ended up with large holes eroded through it. Huff, huff. The annihilation wind, eroding and shattering the silver canopy, continued blowing towards Luo Feng. Whoosh 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 tilde tilde tilde, although the silver robe was eroded, it naturally regenerated from nothingness, intercepting again and again, only to be blown into non-existence repeatedly. From the looks of it, the annihilation wind appeared more dominant. Yet, the silver robe spread out, filled with endless vitality, and was able to regenerate again and again. Besides, Luo Feng himself continually provided energy, resisting the annihilation wind. Finally, Luo Feng's robe, now perforated throughout, saw the annihilation wind finally exhausted. Just a robe blocked my annihilation wind. The Emperor of Tian Kuan, who made his first move, realized that his opponent was tough, his physical body and robe, both crafted from secret techniques. Extremely tough, and the vitality is exceedingly rich. The characteristic of practitioners of the great Tao of life origin is that they are very hard to completely annihilate. It seems as though they are destroyed, yet they can recover from nothingness. Emperor Chu, a destroyer of ultimate realm life forms, believed it would take 2 to 3 attacks to completely eliminate Luo Feng's avatar. It shows the tenacity of his vitality. Luo He, I just blew a breath, and your robe is already tattered, the Emperor of Tian Kuan's voice echoed through heaven and earth. Luo Feng's tattered robe naturally repaired itself, returning to its pristine condition. The annihilation wind of the Emperor of Tian Kuan is indeed quite powerful, Luo Feng praised. I wonder, do you have even more formidable moves? Let me test them. Then I shall satisfy you. The Emperor of Tian Kuan's blood-red eyes grew fiercer, and on his massive forehead a dazzling golden light suddenly gathered, shocking all onlookers the moment the light condensed. The Great Extinction Golden Light. The killing move of the Emperor of Tian Kuan. Being a greatly seasoned Second Realm godly king, the moves of the Emperor of Tian Kuan were well known to the outside world. The annihilation wind was just a common technique, but the Great Extinction Golden Light was the true killing move, one that even posed a threat to emperors and monarchs. The Emperor of Tian Kuan is going all out from the start, observed the mountain-sitting guest with some unease. This Great Extinction Golden Light, harnessing the might of the primordial bloodline, wreaks terrible destruction upon matter, enough to command respect from an emperor level. The divine power incarnation of the Emperor of Yushui also watched nervously. Luo He was acting on his behalf this time. Sa the Novelia.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The reputation of the Great Extinction Golden Light was well established. The moment the golden light emitted from the forehead of the Emperor of Tian Kuan, Luo Feng was too late to block and was instantly affected. The golden light struck Luo Feng's chest in an instant. Luo Feng only felt his body rumble, the golden light merging instantly into his body, wantonly and wildly destroying everything. The fundamental structure of his world life form was constantly being annihilated. Although it was being annihilated, it was also struggling to recover. But the destructiveness was too terrible, and it soon completely annihilated the vitality of the fundamental matter. Hiss hiss hiss. The majestic, towering, silver-clad figure of Luo Feng showed countless golden patterns emerging on its surface, eroding and annihilating his body even as he continued to regenerate it. My Great Extinction Golden Light, formed from the concentration of primordial bloodline, clearly has the upper hand. But his body is like a world, containing too vast an energy. The Emperor of Tian Kuan realized the tenacity of Luo He. Godly kings could easily reach heights equal to heaven and earth. So from the surface, it was difficult to clearly judge just how vast the energy reserves in this avatar of Luo Feng were. Emperor Chu, as a life form that had reached the ultimate realm, had much sharper senses. The senses of the Emperor of Tian Kuan were much inferior, only able to judge accurately through combat. One Great Extinction Golden Light can only destroy about 1% of his body. The Emperor of Tian Kuan felt a chill in his heart. But I can at most emit 10 Great Extinction Golden Lights, if I exhaust myself. Although he still had several killing moves, the Emperor of Tian Kuan could deduce that he was unable to annihilate this body. Those who cultivate the great Tao of life origin, though their life force is tenacious, typically evade and use avatars to preserve their lives in my presence. Few dare to resist my moves head-on. The Emperor of Tian Kuan reflected, but this Luo he dares to resist my moves. I can feel that his physical body, apart from containing many mysteries of the great Tao of life, also contains the mysteries of the origin Tao of matter, making it so tough and difficult to annihilate. The Emperor of Tian Kuan, being a practitioner of the origin Tao of matter himself, could even more certainly recognize this. Emperor of Tian Kuan, do you have even more powerful moves? Luo Feng, in his towering silver attire, with its numerous golden patterns still eroding him, bore it calmly and fearlessly. This Luo he is merely relying on having a sufficiently massive life form to withstand the attack. The Emperor of Tian Kuan also had experience dealing with such massive life forms. The larger the life form, the greater the strain on the soul and spiritual will. Being barely able to manipulate it was already good. It simply couldn't employ subtle techniques. Luo he. The Emperor of Tian Kuan looked at Luo Feng. This clumsy body is what you rely on. I will now flatten your Huyang city, and I want to see if you can stop me. Whoosh! The Emperor of Tian Kuan moved, appearing enormously vast yet astonishingly fast, traveling between heaven and earth, heading straight for Huyang city. He intended to exploit his advantage in the finesse of his moves, making Luo Feng pay the price. Flatten Huyang city. Luo Feng's face turned cold. Whoosh! With a step, Luo Feng merged into the world and instantly appeared right in front of the Emperor of Tian Kuan. Cut! Luo Feng raised his right hand high, despite the golden light eroding his body. Power converged in his right hand, a terrifying aura of life and death gathering in his palm. Using his hand as a blade. Slash! Luo Feng's right hand chopped down, the vast power contained within the world life form fully concentrated within this blade light, which, while highly concentrated, also embodied the eerie essence of cutting off all vitality. This, the Emperor of Tian Kuan had not expected that Luo he, even in such a massive life form, could still execute such a subtle technique. He didn't know that, managing to wield 1,000th of the energy reserves in an avatar, Luo Feng could perform his most intricate techniques. If the avatar managed even more, growing larger, the techniques he could use would only become cruder. Were he to deploy the true body of the world life form, every movement would be incredibly cumbersome. But at this moment, the technique Luo Feng was using was one of his killing moves that merged life and death, life-cutting. The blade light traveled in darkness, seemingly non-existent in reality, and in an instant had already cleaved deep into the body of the Emperor of Tian Kuan, slicing in silently. Luo Feng stood at a distance, the golden lines on his body slowly fading, the great extinction golden light gradually exhausting itself. Emperor of Tian Kuan, how was that move? Luo Feng looked at the other. Emperor Tian Kuan's massive body had a wound appear, with the scale armor around it turning grey and lifeless. Soon, this scale armor and flesh turned to ashes and vanished. However, for the enormous body of Emperor Tian Kuan, the loss of this bit of flesh and scale armor was negligible. In the blink of an eye, new flesh and scales grew back. How is this possible? Emperor Tian Kuan could hardly believe it. His body is like a world, even more vibrant than mine. I am in the second realm of Godly King, and I need to cultivate the primordial bloodline to manipulate such a physical body. Moreover, I have to suffer from the contamination of the bloodline will, yet he uses no external force, manipulates such a body, and can execute intricate maneuvers. How does he achieve that? If a massively built body had clumsy moves, its threat would be too low. Emperor Tian Kuan could toy with it at will. His moves, Luo Feng didn't even have time to stop. Luo Feng's clumsy maneuvers, he could easily stop them all. He would have the absolute initiative. But now, Luo Feng could even effortlessly blend into the heavens and earth, teleporting and appearing everywhere nearby. With such swift attacks, Emperor Tian Kuan couldn't intercept them in time. This isn't a maneuver of the great Tao of life origin. The moves of the great Tao of life origin aren't so devious and unpredictable. nor from the origin Tao of matter. Emperor Tian Kuan looked at Luo Feng. He has also mastered a third great Tao. That blade light just now moved through the darkness, as if it didn't exist in reality. By the time it struck, he had already been hit. The speed of this move was utterly unblockable. Is it somewhat like the path of causality? Or destruction? Or something else? Emperor Tian Kuan had many doubts, but he couldn't be sure of anything. However, he did understand one thing. Luo he was much more troublesome than anticipated. How is this possible? To manipulate such a massive physical body without external aid and still execute such exquisite maneuvers. A number of ancient beings with profound strength on the land of origin found it incredible. This defied common sense. Of course, theoretically, it was possible. Could it be that his spiritual will has surpassed the ultimate realm of godly king? To manipulate such a body, and still do it with ease? Or does he also cultivate the soul path? Is his soul incredibly powerful? Is he a reincarnated old fellow whose realm far exceeds the first realm of godly king, making such maneuvers easy for him? Various speculations came to mind. These were all possibilities. The land of origin had hidden dragons and crouching tigers over the long years, and it wasn't the first time some incredibly astonishing new godly king, after enough strength was accumulated, or after their signature moves were exposed, was confirmed to be an old fellow reincarnated. I've been watching Luo Feng grow up, and his small universe is unprecedented in the history of the land of origin. There hasn't been an old fellow who's reached this level, said Mountain Sitting Guest, who was watching nervously, now excited. Luo Feng, he's reached this point on his own strength. He has been on the land of origin for just over a century. Mountain Sitting Guest was well aware of how stunning his disciple was. 100+ eras were enough to confront the overlords of the land of origin. Given another 1,000 eras, wouldn't he be confronting emperors and monarchs? Wonderful, 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 said Po Lu Godly King in amazement. Being invincible in the first realm of Godly King myself, I wouldn't dare confront Emperor Tian Kuan head-on like that. First realm of Godly King, to be so powerful. Po Lu Godly King, also aware of special grade inheritance, perfect inheritances. Understood theoretically that the first realm of Godly King could be terrifyingly powerful, potentially even more fearsome than Luo Feng at present. But on this source world of the land of origin, Luo Feng's performance had already been very dazzling. After this battle, I must visit Brother Luo He, said Po Lu Godly King, who had initiated a relationship with Luo Feng back when he was in the primal chaos realm. Now, naturally, he sought to deepen their ties, and I'll take Yun Ji with me. Asterisk 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 asterisk. The massive Emperor Tian Kuan looked at Luo Feng and spoke, Luo He, which old fellow's reincarnation are you? I'm not anyone's reincarnation, Luo Feng looked back at him. Even if you were, you wouldn't dare admit it, right? You reincarnated folks always carefully hide your identities, fearing it might attract enemies, Emperor Tian Kuan sneered. I really want to see, in front of me, how much you can still hide. Many godly kings reincarnated, and often at critical moments, they used their signature moves from past lives, exposing their identities. Die. With a massive flap of his wings, Emperor Tian Kuan's huge wings tremored. The pair of wings, flapping violently, made the skies seem to collapse. Boom. Within a vast range, all matter was obliterated, not just rocks and soil, but also plants and trees. Even the energy of heaven and earth was annihilated, along with the primal chaos current being destroyed and turned into the smallest particle streams. This strike also enveloped Luo Feng's body, covering a wide range, making it difficult for Luo Feng to avoid, and forcing him to resist with all his might. Boom. This endlessly terrifying force struck Luo Feng's body. Even though he resisted with his arms and tried to deflect the force, he still felt the overwhelming might spread through his body. As a world life form, he felt the shock, and cracks appeared in the world inside him. The sky-reaching wings of Emperor Tian Kuan, Luo Feng knew a few of Emperor Tian Kuan's lethal moves. If the Great Extinction Golden Light is an energy-based move, sky-reaching wings is purely a power-based technique. Luo Feng, with his towering stature as tall as heaven and earth, was also blasted backward by more than 10 steps, each step stomping out trillions of kilometers in gigantic pits on the ground before he could barely stabilize himself. In terms of strength, this move of his is dozens of times stronger than mine. Luckily my world life form has extremely strong life force. Luo Feng felt a sense of weakness while withstanding the blow. Clearly countless basic life structures had been shattered, but they were restored in the blink of an eye. My body has the advantage in life force, but in terms of the explosive force, it's far less than that of the Emperor of Tian Kuan. Luo Feng realized the gap between them. Boom. Suddenly, Luo Feng's face changed. Pu. A flash of arc light, Luo Feng was suddenly cut in half from the waist, severed into 2 parts. The lethal move sky-breaking tail. Luo Feng had long known about this killer move and had been on guard against it, yet he still couldn't fend it off. This move is the Emperor of Tian Kuan's so-called unbreakable technique. In an instant, his gigantic scale-armored tail would burst forth, all the tremendous power of his entire massive body accumulating at the end of the tail, which then sweeps across the sky in an arc. Simple as it sounds, this move entails techniques of the origin Tao of matter, and even twisted time. Its execution was instantaneous, as it swept across Luo Feng's body. The tail was extremely sharp, cutting through Luo Feng's body with ease. The massive head that composed 1/3 of the Emperor of Tian Kuan's body, only now suddenly opened its mouth, and at this moment Luo Feng felt as if the heavens and the earth had darkened, surrounded by a sea of blood-red folds. I am trapped in the world's stomach. Half of Luo Feng's bisected body ended up in different stomachs. The Emperor of Tian Kuan's another deadly move, world's stomach, utilizes the mysteries of the material origin Tao in combination with the potential of the primordial bloodline physical body, creating several major bloodline techniques. Once the world's stomach is executed, it can swallow a vast expanse of the world into its stomach. This primordial bloodline body possesses multiple stomachs, capable of eroding, destroying, and digesting. Change. The 2 sections of Luo Feng's body, now in different stomachs, instantly transformed into 2 smaller versions of Luo Feng, each of considerably less strength. One-on-one, even though I can withstand some of his moves by relying on the world life form, once the real fight starts, I'd be swallowed in an instant. Luo Feng recognized the disparity in strength. The surrounding blood-red folds, endless blood-red power eroding Luo Feng. S tilde the novelier.net website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. The 2 smaller Luos, their silver robes corroded with many holes, their bodies also began showing many wounds, with Luo Feng's face getting battered and shredded. Many wounds were also being repaired. Destruction, repair, continuously ongoing. Luo He, this body of yours won't think of escaping now. The Emperor of Tian Kuan's voice resonated within the stomach. Emperor of Tian Kuan, your world stomach's eroding power is pretty mediocre. Its speed can't catch up with my natural recovery rate. Luo Feng retorted mockingly. Are you inviting me to reside permanently in your stomach? Indeed, the erosion's power lies in its relentless, but its destructive ability is far less than other killer moves. During the erosion, every part of Luo Feng's body's energy, just like the origin of life, kept restoring itself. My world stomach is quite large, imprisoning you is very easy for me, the Emperor of Tian Kuan declared. Well then, the energy of this avatar, I will gift it to you, the 2 smaller Luo Fengs said with a slight smile. Boom. Boom. Suddenly, countless secret patterns appeared on the surfaces of the 2 smaller Luo Fengs, their skin turning dark red, the very technique Luo Feng had mastered in merging life and death explosions. Red sky burst. Immediately following, they exploded violently, all their energy erupting in an instant. After all, it was the energy reserve of 1,000th of a world life form's true body, exploding with the red sky burst technique. It violently impacted the Emperor of Tian Kuan's stomach, blasting many holes in it. Pu. Externally, the enormous Emperor of Tian Kuan had just swallowed Luo Feng's bisected body. Soon, a violent energy reaction appeared at the abdominal area, many cracks forming on the surface scales. This blow was the most severe damage Luo Feng had inflicted on the Emperor of Tian Kuan thus far in their battle. Can't swallow him anymore in the future, the Emperor of Tian Kuan suffered this blow, feeling quite uncomfortable. To cultivate such a powerful physical body is not easy, to give it up just like that. The Emperor of Tian Kuan was somewhat surprised, thinking Luo Feng's body must be carrying some secret treasures. Even without secret treasures, just to accumulate so much energy to cultivate such a strong body is not an easy task. Emperor of Tian Kuan. A voice echoed through heaven and earth. The blood-colored eyes of the Emperor of Tian Kuan also narrowed. He looked towards the direction of Huyang City from afar. At this moment, Huyang City had already seen the appearance of 10 figures soaring through the sky. 10 silver-robed Luo Fengs, each one's presence no less than before. The Emperor of Tian Kuan is really formidable. One avatar is not his match. Only 10 avatars together is my last resort. The 10 Luo Fengs looked toward the Emperor of Tian Kuan. The scene before him chilled the Emperor of Tian Kuan's heart. It also shocked the various beings currently watching the battle, even those firmly on Luo Feng's side. The mountain-sitting guest and the Emperor of Yushui were stunned as they watched the 10 figures appear above Huyang City. Luo he can actually control 10 powerful avatars. The Lord of Yushui was not surprised by the presence of other avatars, as the outside world had known since the primal chaos realm that Luo Feng possessed the clone technique. But in the recent battle, it was evident to everyone just how strong one of Luo Feng's avatars was. Luo Feng, at the first realm of Godly King, could fight beyond his level precisely because of his mighty physical body. To control such a powerful physical body is difficult for even one avatar. Ordinary practitioners can only carry out clumsy moves, yet Luo Feng has to control 10. Is Luo his strength really approaching mine? The Lord of Yushui could hardly believe it. Luo Feng is only at the first realm of Godly King, exclaimed the mountain-sitting guest, watching the scene in shock. Could he really rival a Godly King of the second realm with such deep accumulation? Controlling 10 avatars at once is much more difficult than just one. Various powers were watching from across the land of origin. Strength is proven in battle. Not intimidated into submission by hollow bluster. HMPH. In the sky, the Emperor of Tian Kuan, with his enormous physique, looked down at Luo Feng from afar, and said coldly, I want to see just how much strength you can exert while controlling 10 avatars at the same time. Come. Each of the 10 silver-clad Luo Fengs was as tall as the heavens and earth, standing in front of Huyang City. Is this city Lord Luo? The guards at the gates of Huyang City, along with countless citizens within, looked up at the 10 silver figures that matched the heavens and earth in height, feeling utterly astonished. Such terrifying beings could probably wipe out billions of creatures in a single breath. My lord's strength has already surpassed my own, thought an avatar of Morosa, standing atop the city owner's mansion, gazing into the distance. I was born from the destruction origin, and am a perfect life form. How could I be suppressed at the same level by my lord? Morosa's moves were all granted by the great Tao of destruction origin, and his abilities were limited to the destruction origin great Tao. Luo Feng himself had cultivated the paths of life, destruction, and the combined life and death, and his transformation method also gave him a grasp of some of the origin Tao of matter techniques. He had also exchanged several special grade inheritances in the infinite space treasure land, thus drawing upon the wisdom of his predecessors. This is the advantage of a cultivator. The lower limit can be very low, but the upper limit is boundlessly high. I hope my lord brings back better food, so I can quickly reach the second realm of Godly King, Morosa thought, its advantage being that it could go straight to the ultimate realm of God King. The downside was that it was very weak in self-cultivation. After all, it had been lying down for a lifetime. To suddenly expect autonomous cultivation was asking too much of the creature. This was also why the two ancient countries valued the Lord of 10,000 Realms, and looked down upon the sector beast of Tianmu Kingdom. The Lord of 10,000 Realms had comprehended a complete origin great Tao on his own and could go even further, potentially even beyond the ultimate realm of God King. As for the sector beast, the likelihood of it surpassing the ultimate realm of God King was negligible. The novel, F.I.NT website on Google to access chapters of novels early and in the highest quality. Parties from all directions were watching the battle. The 10 silver-clad Luo Fengs stared back at the Emperor of Tian Kuan, equally filled with fighting spirit. He wasn't lying, this was indeed his strongest state. Without using any weapons, his strongest state took two forms. One was to control the true body of a world life form, which could possess tremendous energy reserves and frightful recovery abilities. Each move was immensely powerful and terrifying. However, his moves were quite clumsy and easily exploited. The second was to control 10 avatars at the same time. Each avatar could exert 70% strength, and could also execute relatively average Godly King level moves, working together with formation. This balance of power and exquisite moves was perfect, better suited for handling a variety of predicaments. Of course, when controlling a world life form's true body, with its robust energy, it is more appropriate to use weapons. If wielding the Blood Shadow Knife, the power could be further increased, and with the Star Tower, the strength would significantly improve. The Star Tower, where Luo Feng's true body had always been cultivating and studying diligently, felt its suppression, binding, heaviness and fortitude abilities had no upper limit. The stronger Luo Feng became, the more powerful the Star Tower could be utilized. Luo Feng himself hadn't even grasped why the Star Tower was so powerful. It was beyond what a Godly King weapon could explain. Even in the first realm of Godly King, Luo Feng dared not use the Star Tower in the slightest. Boom. The 10 silver-clad Luo Fengs moved at once, merging with heaven and earth, and appeared instantaneously around the Emperor of Tian Kuan, as if they had teleported. To control 10 massive avatars and still execute such an escape technique. The Emperor of Tian Kuan's heart sank as his blood-red pupils grew more frenzied, and the mouth that took up a third of his body opened once more. Roar! This roar, like the wrath of heaven and earth, let out a destroyer's bellow. The range of the roar turned mountains into dust and shattered the earth, creating vast chasms. The roar impacted the 10 distant silver-clad Luo Fengs, causing Luo Feng's robes to begin tearing. But Luo Feng remained calm, even turning his head to look into the distance. Outside the wilderness, although creatures were scarce and widely spaced, the roar of the Emperor of Tian Kuan was so vast in reach that it could still affect a distant tribe. That was a tribe of thousands of creatures, who, in a state of terror, watched the roaring black ripples form, sweeping toward them like tidal waves of the world, bearing endless intent of destruction. Father! Children cried out in fear, while true gods looked on in despair. Under the watchful gaze of Luo Feng, the power of the world enveloped the whole tribe, transferring all of the tribe's buildings in one go, relocating them to a wilderness area closer to Huyang City. Distracted while fighting me, the Emperor of Tian Kuan bellowed in shock and anger. After the roar spread out, it returned to the battle area and continued to propagate. The Emperor of Tian Kuan flapped his wings and lunged at one of Luo Feng's avatars. The 10 Luo Feng avatars took the initiative to encircle him. In one confrontation, one of Luo Feng's avatars reeled back several steps. However, the other 9 avatars had already encircled and attacked their enemy. Slash! The tail of the Emperor of Tian Kuan lashed out. With a flash of light, it seemed as if the heavens and earth were split in two. Even though Luo Feng was prepared, one of his avatars was still severed in half. Yet another avatar, despite being severely injured, forcefully grabbed hold of the tail. The avatar that was cut in half healed instantly and returned to its original state. Die! One avatar stubbornly clung to the tail, while the others continued to attack in succession. Roar, roar, roar. The Emperor of Tian Kuan roared furiously, with waves of sound reverberating. The sound waves he had earlier emitted were now returning, and the continuing waves added to the existing ones, creating a vast domain of sound. Each of Luo Feng's avatars moved like ghosts, as if walking through darkness, and each was incredibly valiant, resisting the impact of the sound waves. Die! The Emperor of Tian Kuan's wings trembled fiercely, and hundreds of golden swords flew out from the depths of his wings, piercing through many of Luo Feng's avatars with their extreme sharpness, leaving hole after hole. But to Luo Feng's towering body, these holes were too small to be of any concern and healed in an instant. Life and death reincarnation. One of Luo Feng's avatars desperately clung to the Emperor of Tian Kuan's tail, taking hits without releasing it, thereby restricting the most damaging move, Skybreaking Tail. The other 9 avatars utilized the life and death reincarnation formation, furiously assaulting the Emperor of Tien Kuan. The Emperor of Tien Kuan, with his immense size and still dragging Luo Feng's avatar, was still overwhelmingly mighty. With constant roaring, the domain of sound waves continued to invade. The 100 swords relentlessly inflicted serious injuries on Luo Feng again and again. Wings spanning 300 million trillion kilometers beat at will, wreaking destruction on heaven and earth. Occasionally, the top of his head would unleash the great extinction golden light. Yet Luo Feng's 10 avatars, despite being covered in scars, continued to press the attack, bearing the injuries. Luo Feng's body was too robust, and even with the execution of Godly King-level techniques, the combined effort of the multiple avatars managed to tear off chunks of flesh from the Emperor of Tien Kuan. Scale armor scattered. Flesh and blood flew everywhere, with numerous wounds. The Emperor of Tien Kuan's injuries were also healing. Are all 10 of his avatars this tough to handle? The Emperor of Tien Kuan also felt discomfort, sensing that each of Luo Feng's avatars possessed the strength of an Overlord level, even more troublesome than some of the tough Overlords. This scene silenced the onlookers from all sides. The Emperor of Tien Kuan and the 10 avatars of Luo Feng both suffered severe injuries, fighting each other frenziedly. But they knew clearly that they dared to do so because both sides had very strong physical bodies. The physical body of the Emperor of Tien Kuan is famously formidable, yet Luo he dares to fight him head-on, without any fear. At the first realm of Godly King, he can be this powerful. In the area where the two sides fought, the domain of sound waves enveloped the scene, the power of the world spread, and the aftershocks of the battle devastated everything. Whoosh! In the midst of darkness. Suddenly, the Emperor of Tien Kuan retreated, his massive wings shook, and in an instant, he disappeared from the spot, having escaped to a distance while dragging Luo Feng's avatar away, far from the other 9 avatars of Luo Feng. Stop this! The Emperor of Tien Kuan said in a low voice. Luo Feng's one avatar also let go of the giant scale-armored tail. This tail was too powerful, but once grasped, its threat greatly diminished. Whoosh! Luo Feng's 10 avatars moved near instantly, still surrounding the Emperor of Tien Kuan. All the wounds on the 10 Luo Fengs disappeared, and their robes were also restored as if new. The Emperor of Tien Kuan, also covered in wounds, healed, and his scale armor all regrew, appearing as if neither side had been injured at all. You say stop and we stop. The 10 Luo Fengs looked at him. The Emperor of Tien Kuan, looking at the 10 Luo Fengs around him, said, I acknowledge you have the strength to intervene in this matter. Let our two nations cease fighting henceforth. You decide to wage war when you want, and cease it when you wish. Luo Feng looked at him. Previously, you wanted to level my Huyang city, and now you act as if nothing happened. The Emperor of Tien Kuan looked around and asked, What do you want then? Emperor of Tien Kuan, you've said yourself, some actions must come with a price. The 10 Luo Fengs stood firm while the range of the power of the world quickly expanded. The influence emanated from the center of Huyang city, substantially spreading toward the territories of the Shi Kingdom. It engulfed the surrounding 10 primal chaos prefectures. Luo Feng's true body, as a world life form, could naturally cover 16 primal chaos prefectures. The Shi Kingdom also had 12 primal chaos prefectures enveloped to varying degrees, with some completely covered and others only 1/3 covered. Luo Feng chose the nearest 10 territories. The Lord of Yushui gifted me 10 territories. I will also take 10 from the Shi Kingdom. The 10 Luo Fengs looked at the Emperor of Tien Kuan. Consider it the price of the Shi Kingdom. If you agree, we can cease hostilities. If you don't agree, then we continue the war, and I will conquer the territories with my own abilities. This video will end here.